Artificial intelligence is almost always described as neutral, objective, apolitical, data-driven. This framing is so common that it rarely feels like a claim anymore. It feels like a fact. AI is presented as a tool that removes human bias, human emotion, and human subjectivity from decision-making. The implication is clear. If humans are the problem, then AI is the solution. But this framing does something subtle and extremely important. It transfers authority without transferring accountability. AI does not decentralize power. It centralizes it while using neutrality as camouflage. To understand how this works, you have to separate appearance from function. On the surface, AI looks distributed. Models are trained on vast data sets. Decisions are automated. Outcomes emerge statistically. No single person appears to be in charge. This creates the illusion that power has been dispersed. In reality, power has been consolidated upstream into the hands of those who design the systems, define the objectives, control the data, and deploy the infrastructure. Neutrality is the story that makes this consolidation acceptable. The key move happens when judgment is reframed as computation. Human decisions are visible. They can be questioned. They can be challenged. They can be traced back to incentives, values, and interests. AI outputs are framed differently. They are described as results, not choices, as predictions, not preferences, as optimizations, not priorities. This language matters because it strips outcomes of intent. And without intent, accountability becomes difficult to assign. When an AI system determines who gets visibility, who gets flagged, who gets ranked higher, who gets access, or who gets excluded, the system is not described as exercising power. It is described as executing logic. The distinction is artificial, but it is effective. Logic feels neutral. Power feels political. By collapsing power into logic, AI systems inherit legitimacy without scrutiny. This is where centralization quietly occurs. Whoever controls the logic controls the outcomes. But because the logic is buried inside models and framed as technical necessity, that control is rarely contested. The system appears to be doing what the data demands. And the data, we are told, simply reflects reality. But data never reflects reality neutrally. It reflects what has been recorded, what has been measured, what has been prioritized, and what has been excluded. Those decisions are human decisions. They encode history, power, and bias. When AI systems are trained on that data, they inherit those structures. When they are deployed at scale, they normalize them. Neutrality becomes the shield that prevents this normalization from being questioned. The claim of neutrality performs two functions simultaneously. First, it legitimizes the system. Second, it disarms opposition. If a system is neutral, then objections must be emotional, ideological, or uninformed. Criticism becomes a misunderstanding rather than a challenge. This framing is extraordinarily powerful because it flips the burden of proof. The system does not need to justify itself. The critic must justify their discomfort. This is why AI is so effective at centralizing power across institutions. It allows organizations to act decisively while appearing impartial. Decisions that would previously require explanation can now be attributed to the model. Authority moves upward, but responsibility dissolves sideways. You see this pattern everywhere. Platforms say their algorithms do not promote certain content. They merely reflect engagement. Companies say their systems do not discriminate. They optimize for performance. Governments say predictive tools do not target individuals they assess risk. In each case, power is exercised, but no one admits to exercising it. The system becomes the actor. Humans become custodians. This custodianship is the new position of authority. You are responsible for maintaining the system, but not for its outcomes. You oversee the process, but you do not own the consequences. This is an extraordinarily advantageous position. It allows institutions to benefit from control while remaining insulated from blame. This is not accidental. Neutrality is not a descriptive property of AI. It is a strategic posture. Once AI systems are widely adopted, neutrality becomes self-reinforcing. The more decisions are automated, the more human discretion is removed. The less discretion exists, the harder it becomes to imagine alternatives. The system starts to feel inevitable. At that point, questioning it feels like questioning reality itself. This is how centralization stabilizes, not through force, but through normalization. The most important thing to recognize is that neutrality does not mean absence of values. It means values have been embedded upstream, out of sight. Objective functions encode priorities. Loss functions encode trade-offs. Thresholds encode tolerance for error. These are not technical necessities. They are value judgments disguised as mathematics. Because these judgments are made once and then scaled indefinitely, they become incredibly powerful. A single design choice can shape millions of outcomes. But because that choice is buried inside the system, it is rarely revisited. Centralized power becomes invisible power. This invisibility is what makes AI governance so difficult. Regulators are asked to oversee systems that are described as too complex to fully explain. Oversight becomes procedural rather than substantive. As long as the system appears neutral, its effects are tolerated. Harm is reframed as error. Error is reframed as noise. Noise is accepted as unavoidable. Meanwhile, those who control the infrastructure gain enormous leverage. They can adjust parameters quietly. They can redefine objectives. They can alter training data. Each change ripples outward, shaping behavior at scale. And because the system is framed as neutral, these adjustments rarely attract attention unless something breaks spectacularly. Even then, the response is rarely to question the structure. It is to refine the system. More data, better models, improved safeguards. Each fix strengthens the same centralized architecture. This is how AI differs from earlier technologies. Previous systems concentrated power visibly. AI concentrates power invisibly. It does not announce authority. It dissolves it into process. This is why AI adoption often accelerates after controversy. Scandals justify more automation, not less. Human judgment is blamed. Systems are positioned as corrective. Each failure becomes an argument for deeper integration. Neutrality is the narrative that makes this cycle palatable. Once you understand this, you can see how AI reshapes institutional behavior. Organizations stop asking what is right and start asking what the system supports. Metrics replace judgment. Optimization replaces deliberation. The system's output becomes the default decision. Over time, human authority atrophies. The system does not just assist decision-making, it defines it. At that point, centralization is complete. Power resides where the system is designed, trained, and maintained. Everyone else operates within its boundaries. This is not a future scenario. It is the present structure. AI has already centralized power across media, finance, governance, and labor. It has done so quietly, under the banner of neutrality. And because neutrality feels safe, resistance feels unnecessary. This channel exists to strip away that banner, not to demonize technology, but to make the structure visible. If you felt a sense of inevitability while listening to this, that is not persuasion. It is recognition. These systems are already in place. Understanding them does not grant control, but it restores orientation. Staying connected to this channel is not about chasing updates or reacting to headlines. It is about continuing to build a coherent picture of how modern power operates. Each video adds another layer. Each layer makes the next easier to see. AI does not centralize power by declaring authority. It centralizes power by denying that authority exists at all. Neutrality is not the absence of control. It is the story that allows control to scale without resistance. Once you see that, neutrality stops feeling reassuring, and power stops feeling abstract.